probably done this a shitload of times, but this is probably one of the most fun things I've been at, especially like this is not really a normal talk, so I want everybody to give a big hand to yourself. Thank you very much, Daniel and the Incitement team for inviting me, and my name is Zhariff Afandi, and I must say the last two speakers were amazing, right? Yeah, so are you guys doing alright? It's getting late, but you guys were dancing and singing, and I guess you guys look fresh, so that's good. So my name is Zhariff Afandi. So welcome to Incitement, and I hope to incite and instigate and cause a riot in your minds and in your soul, just as the last two speakers have, because these guys are just amazing, and you guys have been a bundle of energy. So yes, get going. So usually the thing is, I do these kind of things. I do public talks, and usually I do these things called Inspire the Fire. So I run this thing called the Zhariff Initiative, which is something that I've been running for a long time. Peculiarly enough, one of the main things that I've always been looking at is trying to find happiness. Who here doesn't want to find happiness? Can I glad nobody put your hands up on that? So who here wants to be happy?
Me!
Alright, sweet. So yeah, essentially we all expect to be happy, but then it's true, right? Expectations is one thing, but reality is another thing. And today I learned something amazing, is that instead of having expectations, what do you have? Appreciation. And essentially, what is happiness? An appreciation. An appreciation of you. An appreciation of the reality that you live in, and who you are, and what you are. So, I guess, one of the things that is kind of obvious to a lot of people, maybe not at the moment because I have my sleeves in my pocket, is that I was born without hands. So that's fine, that's cool, that's not really the highlight of my life. But yeah, so I've always been the kind of guy that believed that I meant something in this world. And in fact, one of my dreams as a kid was to be a ninja. Yeah, so I went to university, I went to school in the pursuit of being a ninja. No, but anyway, so I believe the thing is, one thing cool about Incitement as well is that there's a lot of people here who would like to be change makers, who believe that they can make a difference. And ever since I was little, I too hoped and believed that I could make a difference, right? And a lot of things happened in life. So next. So, but the thing is, I never stopped believing in myself. So I didn't have hands, it's fine, And I've got a pretty cool story that, in fact, my challenge in life was even when I was a little baby. So I was born without arms. But the thing is, besides not being born without arms, I was also born not breathing. So I was actually the doctor was ready to pretty much say, sorry, your baby's dead, right? To my dad. And they actually asked my dad whether or not he wanted to save me, because they gave an option to him because I didn't have hands, right? So back in the days, they actually figured if your baby, is deformed or something like that, they would give you an option to keep it or not. So thank God they kept me, right? And I am alive today. But as I grew up, I always believed that, I am who I am, right? We are all who we are. And from a very young age, I was always curious about the differences of myself. I was living around, and everybody, I guess, had hands. And in fact, I asked, when I was a kid, kids used to ask me, how come you don't have hands, huh? Right? How the hell should I know? So one day I actually asked this question to my mom, right? And she gave me a pretty simple answer, actually, which is pretty cool. was that, at the end of the day, people are people, right? You see around you who looks alike? Nobody, almost, unless you're twins, right? So, some people have long hair, short hair, some people are taller or shorter, some people have dark skin or, fair skin, one hand, two hands. So that's just pretty much how life is. And that's pretty much how I've been living my life, and I think it's not so big of a deal in that sense. So despite not having hands, I've managed to live life pretty decently, achieved a couple of things in my life. I've always been a sports freak or an adventure freak. In fact, let me just share with you something kind of odd as a kid. Ninja was my pursuit in life because, I think when I was a kid, I used to have this crazy imagination that everything I was doing was in the pursuit of being a ninja. So in fact, even writing or doing things, so I think that's why I kind of feel I'm very accurate these days. But on top of that, I used to like to jump off things. My house used to have a pool, and I used to, this is when I was 3-4 years old, I used to jump from my balcony into the pool. Yeah. And so that kind of stuck till now, and I continue doing sometimes stupid things, sometimes crazy things. The other day I ran 85 kilometers in the Sabah Adventure Challenge. And then a few years ago I entered this thing called the Marang Swimathon, so I swam about 6.5 Ks. I actually got number 50 out of 56 out of 260 participants. Yeah, so, so in other words, I guess, it doesn't matter really, what kind of who you are, right? Or what kind of limitations you might have. So I guess if you kind of put your head to it, like a lot of people that you've heard today, with all the challenges that they've gone through, you could pretty much do a lot of things, right? So, and in fact, I was horse riding since I was 8 years old, and I used to do all these things without actually thinking that it was anything, not really that big of a deal, because I was just doing, right? So funny enough, I've been riding since 8, and that picture right there was actually when I was working at this horse riding club. So a few years ago, I managed a horse riding club in Danai Alam, which was really cool because I've been very close with horses since I was a kid, right? And this place was one of those test of fire kind of things, because I was managing this place. I had 40 staff members, right? I was managing from your horse trainers to your kitchen staff, because I was the group GM of the company, basically. And it gave me a lot of confidence as well to manage things. So after a while, I actually had a dream. From a very young age, I wanted to do my thing, though I wasn't really sure what that thing was. So eventually, after I started working at Danai Alam, I decided to do my own thing. So I formed this thing called the Zhariff Initiative about 2010. It was my 30th birthday present to myself. So I set up this company literally 2 days after my birthday. No, a day after my birthday, 8th December. I was born on the 7th December. So a lot of people kind of see myself you don't have hands, so it must be difficult doing things. And in fact, what I did though, all this life, I kind of figured that since people always saw what I did was amazing, and they would see using my feet as both a limitations as well as something great, I guess, I would actually brand my company around the things that people saw as my limitations. Because even growing up, I guess it's kind of annoying. My most pet peeve question is when someone asks me whether I'm a painter or whether I'm an artist. I do paint and I do like art, but I hate that stereotype. Because despite all that, I did go to uni. I finished. I went overseas. I actually worked in Aceh for the tsunami relief, and I was there for a year, 9 months actually, 10 months in Aceh doing all sort of tsunami relief. And the main thing that people would ask me would be, "Hey, how you eat, huh?" Or hey, you can go toilet now. So that would always kind of like cheese me off because I've pretty much traveled the world. I've gone to Aceh, I do horse riding and things like that, and the main thing that people would be asking me is like, hey, you can go toilet now yourself. Sometimes, you can swim, maybe a bit. So at the end of the day, I guess it's one of those things whereby whenever people look at things, it's so true whereby when people say you can't really judge a book by its cover. I know a lot of you guys out here, probably some people see you as nothing much, right? But actually, I do believe that every one of us has something quite special, in us. So I set it up my company, a few years ago, 2010, and in the time that I set the company up, it was amazing. Actually, it was ridiculous. In 3 years, so in 3 years, we organized 63 community projects. We have gotten over 5,000 people volunteering in our programs. We have partnered with 45 NGOs and community groups, served and assisted 7,000 individuals. I've given more than 50 motivational talks, hopefully inspiring more than 15,000 individuals and reached 2.5 million people on social media. So, which was really great, This was something quite amazing, which we did in 3 years. But, big but on this, right? So this is where the twist of the story, this is kind of a new angle that I'm taking today, actually. Because usually I do have my set script on what I would say and yada yada yada, but I guess I had gone through something quite amazing as well. But next, so we got our first big break, right, when I ran this project called Rockcore. So I don't know whether you guys know what Rockcore is. Rockcore is a global movement. And we secured the rights for Rockcore, and Rockcore does volunteering by utilizing music as its main catalyst, right? So through Rockcore is that we got 53 community projects and 5,000 plus volunteers. So that was quite amazing in terms of getting the project because that was our first big break when I set up the company. It was kind of coincidence because one of my friends said, you guys got to check this out because what the company does is all about like inciting or capitalizing community projects and trying to make a difference. And so I found this concept, fell in love with it, and then connected with the guys. Took me a while because they didn't really want to like entertain me because I would call them from Malaysia and say, hi, I'm sorry, I found your movement called Rockcore and I'd like to bring it to Malaysia. And they were like, what? Who? Where? Right? So anyway, I didn't let that stop me, and I just continued communicating with them. And they said, are you sure you'd like to bring Rockcore down because it's super expensive kind of program. It's got like it's got it's kind of like a franchise program, but it's super cool because they get people like P Diddy, Lady Gaga to kind of like do volunteer work as well, and they like perform and things like that, right? So I said, yeah, I do. I really want to go. I really want to bring this to Malaysia. And they were like, okay, fine, then try to come down here and let's set up a meeting. And I said, yeah, sure. And I guess the guy was like, I felt a slight like cynicism, I guess, on their part. They're like, it's another kid that wants to bring Rockcore to their country, kind of thing. This is a pretty huge movement. And I took a trip to London. I actually brought my team down to London and did the whole thing and managed to bring it to Malaysia. So this is basically the short version of the story. So as I was doing this program called Rockcore Malaysia, next. So this was kind of like the highlight of the company and my company the last couple of years, basically. Yeah? So we got so much recognition. The PM awarded me with a bunch of awards. We got endorsements and blah blah blah, and it felt kind of amazing because next. So I pretty much got covered in almost every newspaper that you could imagine. In fact, ever since I was a kid, I was always covered, in the newspaper for even dumb things like drawing. Enter the drawing competition. Okay, fine. But this really was like one of those things whereby, it was pretty much the of my venture, basically, right? So here I was, a small company, suddenly from 3 people to 40 staff members, right? And suddenly doing projects all over Malaysia, doing projects in Australia, doing projects in France, and it was just insane, right? So I was pretty much really high at that time, right? I mean, I was on top of the world, you know, I was doing what I wanted to do, felt invincible, but then, darkness. Alright, so this is something that I haven't really shared like a lot on public-wise, you know what I mean? So there I was, you know, I had my company, and we were rolling, and it was going amazing. But then we hit a humongous brick wall, right? One thing is, I know a lot of you guys, I don't know whether you have your companies, you want to set up your own ventures, you want to set up your own thing, right? You want to be an entrepreneur. Initially, you have this amazing high, especially when you hit like, you know, a pinnacle of some sort, right? And I did, major high, right? I was buddies with the Prime Minister, buddies with all the ministers, kind of thing, you know, everybody wanted to meet me. Kind of like you, buddies, it's like, you know, right? When you're on top, right? Everybody wants to be with you, right? And so, you know, it was amazing, right? But then, you know, our funding suddenly just started drying up, right? We shared our concept with an agency that I will not mention, right? But so we kind of like worked together with this government agency, and we gave them our ideas and stuff like that, and we kind of worked on a deal where, let's make this something really amazing, right? But then after a while, we just got stopped funding. Like the funding just stopped, and I had 40 people working for me. Right, imagine 40 people looking for their livelihood at you, and you're like, and we started like scrambling all over and trying to find the funding as well again, right? And but we just always hit a brick wall. It was one of those very confusing things. We had a superbly perfect plan. It's a plan that's been working all over the world, right? And in fact, we started the Australian chapter as well, and it worked really well. But then, for some reason, it just couldn't hit that next level. The program that we were running could not hit that next level, right? And it was so difficult. I thought I could overcome it because I already thought that I was the superhero. I managed to do all this. You know, PM's my buddy, right? My homeboy. Ministers are my crew, kind of thing, right? But for some reason, it just never materialized to what it was supposed to be here. And it was so difficult. And it took us a couple of years trying to get it to really be what it was, right? Until the point that I was in total darkness. Because it came to a point that we were trying to secure our funding, but it always fell half short. Right? And after a while, I felt like I lost my mojo. It was one of those things where suddenly people stopped calling me. I don't know why, what happened. I don't really know up till today, right? But then again, I also realized something, perhaps, right? When I was in that high position, right? And when we were doing all those community projects, there came a point that I didn't do any more community projects. I was just there monitoring and being the boss, right? And I think I kind of got a bit of the fame kind of thing into my head, kind of thing, right? So maybe it was a way that God kind of hit me back. At least I believe this, you know. It was a way that God hit me back and kind of like said, dude, you know, I'm going to test you right now. Yeah, I'm going to test you right now. So there was quite a long period whereby things just started crumbling. Everything we did suddenly just didn't work. It was crazy. There was a period of time, like 3 years, right? Everything we did just was amazing. Everything we touched kind of like turned into gold. It was just so easy doing things. But then suddenly there was a period of time whereby nothing worked. Nothing, not even the simplest kind of programs felt like it worked. Not even our most simple concepts, you know. And I have been doing talks for many years. I've been doing this thing called breaking the barrier. And even doing that felt shitty. It was just, everything was just crap. Right? So This was very difficult. One day, if ever, I think if you guys are running your own venture or would like to run your own venture, this might or might happen, but it could happen. And when you hit bottom, you can really hit bottom, right? And from 40 staff, I had to let go one by one by one, and there was even a point whereby there was a wholesale, kind of like fire sale. Everybody just pretty much left. Yeah. Right, and we were trying to do things, but things just didn't happen. So I was so depressed at that time, and this wasn't so long ago. This was literally last year, right? And it was very painful because I was when people saw me, of course, I was this Mr. Motivation, right? I do my motivational talks. I get paid quite a lot to do these things. So to me, it's like, oh yeah, you're Mr. Motivation, right? But people didn't know that actually behind the scenes, it was such a painful time actually for us. It was super painful. And even there came to a point whereby when I was doing my motivational talks or when I was doing my sharing sessions, I call them, I hated hearing myself talk. I hated even hearing myself speak. Right? Because I didn't even believe what I was saying basically. I just thought, oh my God, what a load of crap, right? But yeah, so that was a very is it okay if I went beyond 0? There's 0 minutes already, right? This organizer, is that right? Yeah, cool. Okay, so I'm just going to go anyway for it. Won't take too long. But anyway, so this was a really hard period of time. And on top of that, I just got married at that time, right? Doesn't make it any easier, right? Moved into with my mother-in-law. Doesn't make it any easier as well, right? And it was very difficult, right? That was a super, super duper period whereby I was literally not doing anything. I couldn't even get out of the house. My staff members, I have my trusty PA, right? And she's stuck with me through thick and thin, and she would try and prowl me out of the house. I had people look for me, right? I had people waiting for payments and things like that, and it was really a crappy situation to be, right? And that was really difficult. If any of you say that it's fine failing, actually it's not fine failing. Nobody wants to fail, right? Never ask for failure. Always try to not fail. But if you fail, you fail. It's fine. Right? This is one of those things where, because I was kind of I was very arrogant at that time because, I remember because my dad helped us out a lot in the company as well. And he hated whenever I say, hey, I'm not afraid to fail. Right? And I think it's not about not being afraid to fail. Because sometimes also you don't want to be arrogant and think, I'm going to fail and that's fine. Right? But sometimes you also have to respect yourself as well and respect the failure as well, right? And it's kind of like you take your risk, but at the same time, it's kind of being pragmatic about the situation as well and being pro about the situation. Passion is one thing, which is true, but being a pro means that you take calculated risk, right? And I think I was taking these crazy risks back then, and and of course we got a lot of cool stuff, but then it just fell down and crumbled. Then of course I got a baby, right? And that's my wife and my baby. She's 1 year old, a few weeks back, right?
So cute.
Thank you. Thank you. And that was also still quite difficult at that time when my wife was pregnant. I have my company, but then again I have no staff, I have no work, right? Things aren't working, people aren't picking up my calls, I don't even want to do things, right? But then, I have a family, right? I was going to have a family. So I had to wake up. Because, at that time I was feeling like, it came to a point whereby I think I was almost at that edge. I wouldn't say suicidal kind of thing, but it just felt like, when you kind of feel you used to have all the answers and suddenly you can't connect the dots anymore? That's pretty much how I felt. Because I used to be the Mr. Go-To, as in whatever concepts, answers, I'd have the answer, I'd have the idea, and it would be great, right? But for a long while, I just could not see the dots, let alone connect the dots. I couldn't even see the dots. But then I looked back and, I was having a family, right? And that's when I felt like, I really need to like get out of this. And getting out from failure, for one thing, people say you'll be bouncing back and it'll be immediately fine. It's not. Failure sometimes can take a long while for you to get out. It can, right? Sometimes you think, a day turns into a week turns into a month turns into half a year, right? Of you not really doing anything, right? So that's pretty much how I felt. It was crazy. I thought, I'm just gonna get out of this state. I'm just gonna, I'm feeling a bit depressed right now. I'm gonna chill for a bit, gain back my mojo. But then I didn't realize that it was like half a year down the line and I was still down, right? And then the baby came. I think my baby's name is Zaya, right? So we call it Zaya Zhariff, right? And that was a huge turning point in my life, right? Because no more was it like, when you're on your own and when you've got your own venture and you're doing things, it's just you. Right, you're taking all the risks and you're just doing it, right? But as you kind of like get to this stage of your life, you start kind of realizing that your decisions not only affect your staff, but then you have a family and a little like creature, right, that looks up to you and expects you to provide for him or her, right? So I was in that position of it was so weird. Right, being in this position, because for so many years I was like a superstar kind of guy, getting into all the places, doing all the things, jet setting all over the world, right, doing crazy stuff. But then this hit me, right, and I had to go out. I don't have a super awesome story whereby it was one of those things whereby a major kind of thing and I just woke up. No, it was a process. It's a process that's difficult to explain, but eventually you're just gonna get one day at a time, make it better one day at a time kind of thing. And I started to feel a bit more confident as I started to grow out, right? And the funny coincidence also was that I forgot what was the thing that I believed most. Because I remember I told you that when I did my motivational talk, I even hated what I was saying. But at the same time, I started to reflect back because all my life I've always been living with these three principles, which was always that there was always a meaning. So always a meaning in life, live life with love, and never be afraid. And for that period of time, I was anything but those three things. I was so afraid to get out of my house. I hated myself. I hated even hearing my own voice, right? And I felt no meaning anymore. But then I looked back and I kind of like started taking one day at a time and reflected back on the core beliefs that I had. And funny enough, the road to recovery, as I said, doesn't just come immediately. So one day I decided to travel a bit and I went to meet up an old friend in Batam, in Indonesia, and we started traveling and I started catching up with him because he was like one of my homeboy buddies since college. And we started talking business, started talking ideas, because we used to do this all the time back in college as well, right? And then I said, this is starting to feel good again. I'm out of the house, I'm actually out of the country again, right? And I came back. So when I came back, it just felt something different. It felt like I needed to do something now. And then I connected with more old friends, and I actually started talking to an old friend who I used to be their consultant a couple of years ago. It was for this project called Gemilang. So at that time, there was this organization called MTEM, which is Majlis Tindakan Ekonomi Malaysia, and I used to do consultancy for them on their programs. So I came back to talk to them about ideas of I was in Batam, there's all these opportunities, it's kind of really cool, let's start doing cool stuff again. And then out of that conversation, the guy was saying, hey, you know what? Would you be interested to take over the organization? And I was like, what? What do you mean? And he's like, yeah, no, because Gemilang basically was going to turn into the next phase from this event to this organization. It was going to turn into a unit. And so from that conversation, I ended up heading the unit, right? So this is pretty much the thing that I'm doing now, which is under this thing called Gemilang Usahawan, which is an entrepreneurship unit, right? I'm actually not going to go on the next slides because I decided it's going to be really boring trying to explain what I do and blah blah blah. But so in essence though, so what we do essentially is entrepreneurship development, right? So it's a pretty big unit. The organization that I work with now is basically a National Council for Economic Action under some special office, right? But anyway, so in that road of recovery, right, I felt like I needed to get back to myself, right? And this is the thing, as you kind of start getting back yourself, it's not going to be that easy. It's not. We all go through different challenges, but it's never going to be easy, right? But this is the thing, as I kind of started getting back in the groove, and I got into this company, and we made our first million in like 3 months. Right? So it's like we started like bouncing back, which was crazy, right? And I felt like, you know what, I'm back. But then, as I'm back now, I've learned so much as well from the previous ventures that I've had, right? For one thing, it's always exciting trying to start your own thing. It is, right? But seriously, there's a lot of thought that you need to give before you do start your own thing. Passion is one thing. I like that just now. Passion is one thing, but to be a pro, you gotta really be a pro. You gotta really dig it. You gotta really understand whether or not you can actually take the blows, right? Because for a while I thought I could take any blows, but that was blows that I really hope I would never come across again, because it's screwed up being in that position whereby you're in the darkness and you can't see, not even connect the dots, you can't even see the dots, right? And yeah, so today I stand here again enjoying myself. Today I stand here enjoying again telling my story. This is totally different from how I usually do things, absolutely, right? But I thought, why not? Let's try it. Let's do it. So I don't have a super profound kind of like ending or anything like that to give you, right? But, at the end of the day, you guys are gonna go through a lot of cool stuff. Hopefully you incite madness, because there's always a method in the madness, right? But you should never stop believing. This is one thing that even though I was in that darkness, I believed so deeply inside that I would get out of it. Even though at that point I did not see the answers. I did not see the answers, I did not see the dots, I could not even read, everything I did just turned into crap for a while, right? But this is the thing, if I totally stopped believing, I think I would probably not be here standing with you, right? So we actually are starting something pretty cool actually that I'd like to share with you. This is not shared with anybody else because this just got approved yesterday. So you guys are fresh out of the oven listening about this. So we're starting this really cool thing. Next, bro. No, this is pretty much the structure. I didn't want to go into this kind of detail. Next. Yeah, so back again first again. So we started this thing, called the G Collective. Back. Not that. Yeah. So what we did was we started this G Collective, whereby. Okay, this was before I'm going to give you the kind of story of what's up. Is that we started this G Collective, which was gathering all sorts of different entrepreneurs within different networks. So these are creative entrepreneurs. These are people who are like your visual graphic artists, entrepreneurs. And we kind of created a collective called the G Collective. right? So we basically do advocacy, and we're a bridge for funding capacity and build end market access. But then next. So this is something that we're starting very soon. So you guys are going to probably listen to this in the news next week because this is pretty huge, and we're already given the green light to be able to say out loud what's up. So we're setting up this thing called GREAT, which is the gathering of rising entrepreneurs that act together. So it's a pretty massive project whereby I think every one of you here are probably either change makers or would love to be a change maker or aspire to do something great, right? I'm sure if not, you guys wouldn't be here, right? So we set up this thing with the Ministry of Finance, which was pretty cool that they accepted our idea, right? And we came up with this concept called Agenda Localism. So what's going to happen on the 17th September is that it's going to be one of the biggest entrepreneur summit that we've seen. And it's not going to be your typical entrepreneur summit, right? It's kind of more focused towards the new wave young entrepreneurs. So we're actually gathering, well, about 1,000 entrepreneurs, and everyone is invited to come and not just showcase. There's going to be like some crazy speakers. And the thing is, this is the cool part. What we've done is pretty much not like organized and everybody come. It's pretty much the ecosystem has come together and organized this. You've got your social ventures, you've got your technopreneurs, you've got your creative entrepreneurs all coming down and all organizing stuff basically for that day. So for us though, we're doing something really cool. Next. We're creating our very first container village. So it's called the Can Do Village. Yeah, so next. So what we've done is we've actually gotten about 12+ containers, like truck containers, right? And we're now modifying them now and creating Malaysia's first mobile mall. Yeah. So we're kicking this project off on 17th September with GREAT, right? And it's going to be pretty much Malaysia's first mobile can-do mall, basically. So if anybody's interested to join in, hop on down, no problem, right? So next. Well, anyway, so that's good. Okay, blah blah blah. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff happening, right? So check out GREAT. If you Google it right now, you probably can't find anything, but by Monday, it's coming out. So, but we've already been, as I said, it's fine for us to talk about it right now. But anyway, so this is the thing. I'm kind of glad right now I'm up here and sharing these things with you, because seriously, if you guys knew the kind of darkness that you can be in, sometimes you feel like you'll never get out, right? But you can. You just have to not stop believing. You all have your own ways. I'm not going to tell you what way to do it, right? Because, I have my way, and sometimes my way doesn't work with other people, and other people are telling me how to do things, and sometimes it doesn't work, right? So you all have the answers to your own life. And again, as I said, I don't have any finishing profound things, but ultimately I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. Thank you to all of you. And with this, I say good night and peace.